Feeling good?
Doing good, Big O. How are you?
Excellent. Dolphins won. Canes still suck, but the
I
Dolphins
know.
won. So,
Yeah, it
you know,
wasn't pretty, but a win is a win, right? 7-3.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That
can't
happens
ask for
with the
much
Heat
more at this
sometimes,
point.
right? You
Yeah,
gotta sometimes you just gotta try to,
a lot of
get
times.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
times with the way the Heat play. Yeah,
Yeah. By the way, the effing fourth quarter showed up again against the
yeah,
Bulls.
yeah. It was not pretty. And it's still an issue. I know they had won 7 in a row, but they have the second worst fourth quarter net rating. They have like the third or fourth worst fourth quarter offense, third or fourth worst fourth quarter defense. Um, I don't know how to explain it because like what changes in the fourth quarter other than maybe the game slowing down, but the Heat play slow anyway. It's really strange. The only thing I can think of is Jimmy sits the first six minutes of the fourth quarter. So maybe with Jimmy on the bench, things start to get a little out of control, and then once he comes in, the other team is on a roll. I have no idea, but the fourth quarter has been an issue now for the first 4 weeks of the season, and that's something they have to fix.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they had that game.
Yeah, it seemed like it 22-1, right?
Yeah. I mean, shit, dude. And then that fourth quarter comes and just everything falls apart. And it's just one of those deals where, you get a little frustrated because that was a very winnable game. Now,
Yeah,
again, you've won seven in a row.
right.
So,
Not going to go undefeated for the rest of the season. But
yeah, and and maybe for tonight, these are funky, dude, when you got to play the same team two nights in a row. It's
yeah,
just, it's such an odd thing.
yeah. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is good at this, right? He's one of the best at making, when setting its eyes on one opponent and kind of making adjustments for that one opponent. So this gave him a chance to do it. They practiced yesterday, which they rarely practice on the road. So that says something right there. He was not happy about the fourth quarter, especially the fourth quarter offense. They're having a shoot around now in about an hour. So they're working, and I think they know they need at least a split here. You can't start this trip 0-2 against a Bulls team that's been struggling, and then you have Cleveland, which I know they haven't been great, but still Cleveland has talent. And then you go to New York, and the Knicks are playing well, and then you play the Nets on a back-to-back. You got to win this one. It's a winnable game, like you said. They had a day off, they had a practice. You got to split this so that way you don't start this trip 0-2. Because then, again, I know they won 7 in a row, but you don't want to negate what you did last trip by going 1-4 on this trip.
Right. And again, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to be consistent here. Okay. Because, when I had Ira on a couple of weeks back and they were 1-4 at that moment, he was like, "Aren't you concerned?" I'm like, "No, because it's only 1-4. It's the
Right.
first week and a half of the season. I'm not going to freak out. Plus, I have the best chef in the entire league. He'll figure shit out." And sure enough, he turned it around. And I'm not going to freak out about this either, because again, we're early in the season and he'll figure shit out. And at the same time, dude, you had won seven in a row.
Right.
So, you know, yeah, you're gonna get tripped up one way or another at one point or another, and some other team is gonna get hot in a quarter, and that happens in basketball. Now, if this continues over the next couple of games, where you have more fourth quarter collapses, and then you start giving away games here, then I start to get concerned. But if you go back now and win the next 3-4 games, you just prove that the other night was an outlier, and you move on. That's You know what I mean? I can't freak out until I see the next couple of games and see what happens. That's all.
Yeah, and I get that. And what I'll say is this: even during the 7-game winning streak, I don't want to say I was worried, but my concern level still was a little bit higher than usual. Only because, yes, they were coming on the road, these wins, but they're coming against bad opponents and barely beating them. I know as a win is a win, but you're beating Charlotte, you're beating Washington, you're beating San Antonio, you're just beating bad teams.
But it's
And
hard to
that's
get inspired to play bad teams too, night in and
yeah.
night out.
No, it is,
No,
and last year they lost to their fair share of bad teams, so that's an improvement. But the offense continues to worry me. They're now, I think they're 20th ranked in offense, um, top 10 in defense. They're ninth in defense right now, but the offense continues to worry me. If they don't have an average, at least an average offense, it's going to be hard for them to really. So I think the offense is the one concerning aspect so far of the start of the season, that they still are struggling to score just like last year.
Okay, so let's break that down. Let's have a real conversation about that, because we need to have a realistic conversation
Yeah.
about that. How many dynamic scorers do they have on this team?
No, I agree, but that's why that's why it concerns me. That's why
But
the offense still.
it shouldn't be a concern. It should be an expectation. This is who they are.
Right.
If you get if you can't find dynamic superstars that make your life easy, you tried to trade for a dynamic scorer,
Right.
actually, and you failed. Unfortunately, you couldn't, whatever, he did not do his part, and so you couldn't end up getting him. You have, like, Tyler's the closest thing you have to almost a dynamic scorer, and he's not really a dynamic scorer, but he's the closest thing you have
Definitely.
to a dynamic scorer. So, you were spoiled in the big three when you had three of them.
Yeah.
And Ray Allen was one himself, by the way, for a long time, and you got him as a key role player. But it's that's where there is no Alonzo Mourning, there is no guy like that on this team, and so that's where it becomes a problem. And if you don't have a lot of dynamic scorers, we can't expect a dynamic offense.
Yeah.
We have to expect what they are. They're a lunch pail offense. They're a blue collar offense. They're just a high flying, super athletic. We're faster. We could jump higher than you. We can, dribble the crap out of you and figure things out. We don't have that. We
Yeah.
don't have guys like that.
Yeah, and that's fine, and I agree with all of that. Tyler is the most dynamic scorer. I think Jimmy can be a dynamic scorer when he wants to be, just because of it with his to the free throw line and just hunting out mismatches. And Bam is trying to be a little bit more aggressive and score more points, because I think they know they need to for this offense to just score enough points to win games, right?
Right.
And that's why
Right.
they play so many close games, is because they can't run away from teams and blow teams out, because they just don't have the offense to do it. So I get it, and we saw that last year too.
They
Yeah.
must live on defense because they don't have a
Defense,
dynamic.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. But I think that's why last year they were around 500, because when you play a lot of close games, you're gonna lose some of them. A team is gonna get hot like Chicago in the fourth quarter, and you're gonna lose that game. Or you might get hot and hold on to win by 2 points, or come back and win by 2 points. But when these close games, it's tough to have 55 wins in a season. It just is. Like, it's tough to do that. So the offense, I know, I'm not saying that I expected it to be a top 5 offense. I didn't. But that has been my concern all along. Is I know they went to the finals last year. They got hot from 3 in the playoffs. Jimmy turned into Michael Jordan. But that's kind of what this team needs to make a finals run. They need to shoot 40% on threes, and Jimmy needs to turn into Michael Jordan to do that, because they just don't have the offense to do that.
Elite.
Their defense must be top 5. Yeah.
Yes. That's kind of what we need from them, because their offense is never going to be explosive and dynamic. It's always going to be lunch pail and blue collar and all that. So then what needs to be elite, and that's the one thing that can be. Their defense can be elite.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they have enough people that are willing to put the effort and work at it to be elite defensively. So that will save them, because we're not in the 90s anymore, my brother. Back in the 90s, there were a lot of teams willing to play defense. Nowadays in the NBA, there aren't a lot of teams playing defense, dude. It just isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And defenses, I mean, Eric Spoelstra said it, they need to lead on defense to win games. And that's obvious. And they did that last year too. I'm looking at the finals last year. I know Tyler Herro was hurt, obviously, but the Heat scored 93 points, 111 points, which was their only win of the series, 94 points, 95 points, and 89 points. This is 2023, and unfortunately for the Heat, they didn't make the upgrade to fix the offense, right? You hope that Tyler, when he comes back, you could have used Tyler in Chicago, right? And on Saturday, you could have used Tyler in that game, especially late. I mean, he's, like you said, he's the most natural, pure scorer on this roster, so he makes the offense better. But how much better can he make the offense? Can he make them just average 15th? That'd be a big improvement from 25th, 26th last season. If you're the 15th best offense and the 5th best defense, all of a sudden you're fighting for home court. But if this team is in 20th or below, that's when it gets tough.
How far is Tyler from coming back?
Well, he's going to be reevaluated here in a couple of days. He's supposed to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So I would say this week he'll be reevaluated. I don't expect him back on this trip. It just seems unreasonable with an ankle sprain that serious. He looked pretty bad when he could barely walk in the locker room after he turned the ankle. And they're on the road, right? So why bring him in the middle of a trip on the road? They're playing a back-to-back Friday and Saturday in New York. Like, it doesn't make sense for him just to join them for those 2 games. So I would say the soonest he comes back is probably next week when they start a homestand on Tuesday, I believe, against I forget who it is. It's not Milwaukee, but they play some maybe Indiana. But they start a homestand Tuesday. That'll pretty much be almost 3 weeks since the injury. So I would say at some point during that homestand he'll probably return.
I know it's the controversy and all that, which I don't think it should be. But I think if you want to be more dynamic, he comes off the bench because your starting unit is strong enough and it has more balance now. And once you get Caleb completely in the mix, then he's in your starting unit. And then now you can bring Tyler off the bench with Highsmith, because obviously Highsmith would be the guy you take out and you put Caleb in there. And then you can have Highsmith come in. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at it right now, with Jaquez, with Highsmith, and with Tyler, and then even Love helping out a little bit, you have enough scoring and you have somebody that's really dynamic off the bench. And then towards the end of the game, that's where you can keep Tyler on. To me, that's the conversation I would have with Tyler if I'm Spo. Hey, man, I'm sorry, but we need to make our team better, and we do it by bringing you off the bench. You'll get the same amount of minutes, but I need you to be that spark to keep that offensive flow, from starter to bench.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think Duncan is a really good fit for that starting lineup. But, and we spoke about this thing, I think last week, Tyler's been really adamant about wanting to start. And some of this is, I know you don't think it matters, but some of this is personality management. It just is. With everything Tyler's been through and all this stuff, if now you tell him you're going to play off the bench, you just have to be careful. And I think Eric Spoelstra has been trying to thread the needle with both of those things because Tyler has started, but he's the first one to leave the game. There's like 6 minutes left in the first quarter. He plays like 6 minutes with that starting lineup, exits the game. 2 minutes later, he's back in there leading the bench unit. So he plays most of his minutes with the reserves, leading those bench lineups, but he also starts. So I think Eric Spoelstra is trying to do both, right? Where he's like, okay, you want to start? We'll start you. But you're going to be the first sub out because we need you back in there in a couple minutes to play the last 4 minutes of the quarter with those bench lineups and maybe for the first few minutes of the second quarter. So you've kind of seen Eric Spoelstra trying to do both, best of both worlds. But it is going to be interesting to see what Spo decides when Herro returns, if this team is still healthy. What does he do with Duncan? Does Duncan go back to the bench?
Right.
Does Tyler Herro replace Kyle Lowry in the starting lineup, maybe? And you don't have a true point guard in the starting lineup? I mean, is that a possibility? So it will be interesting to see what he does.
What'd you think of the bench in that game? Because I thought that was one of the reasons why that kind of hurt. I'm looking at it now. You had 23 points off that bench, 5, 5, 7, and 6. There wasn't a lot of firepower coming off that bench.
Yeah, it was a bad game for the bench. Caleb Martin was hard on himself after the game. He said, it's not about shots going in, but it's about the impact. I was upset about the impact I made. I think he was a minus, what was he? A minus
2 of 9. Yeah.
14. He was 2 of 9, minus 14.
Love was 2 of 7. He was 2 of 9.
Yeah.
And then, Jay Rich, actually, who's been playing better lately, went 3 of 6. Yeah. And Jaquez went 2 of 4. So those guys were efficient. It was Martin and Love that were inefficient in that game.
Yeah. And just those minutes weren't positive. Jaquez was a minus 25. Love was a minus 4. Jay Rich was a minus 26. And Caleb was a minus 14. I mean, that's where you lost the game. The bench went in there after that, taking that big lead, and they let the Bulls back in the game. And Caleb talked about that after. He's like, I'm just upset that we let them back in there after the starters built a big lead. And the bench has been.
I like dropping Highsmith into the bench to add more defense off the bench, versatility off the bench, and then you add Tyler also off the bench, and then you add firepower off
more
the bench.
balance. Yeah.
And Caleb, eventually, Caleb will be Caleb, dude. It's just he's just got back from the injury, dude. He's not there yet. That's fine. I don't have I'm not even worried about Caleb, bro. He'll be fine.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. He missed 10 games. That was his second game back. Like he played 15 minutes. He's not going to be Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's not going to be Caleb Martin for probably another week or two until he gets his legs under him. You could see all of his shots were short. So that's another thing. Like you're missing Tyler. You really haven't had a 100% Caleb Martin yet. So there is, reasons to be optimistic that things will get better. But I'm just really interested to see how much better they get, considering, what we saw last year from the Heat's offense. If this offense can be a little bit improved to set, get this team a little bit over the hump and maybe get them into a top 4, top 3 seed in the East. We'll see if they can do that.
By the way, crazy efficiency by Bam the other night. 24 points, 8 of 12 shooting, 8 of 8 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. Man, that was good, bro.
He just, it's unfortunate. They went away from him in the fourth quarter, though, unfortunately. He didn't score in the fourth quarter, and he had one shot. And Chicago was doing a really good job of protecting the paint. I know that, but obviously
he needs to demand
Bam
it.
was your bet.
Yeah. See, that's where Bam has to have a little Zoe in him. Like, that's where, like, Zoe would have never put up with that shit. He would have been insoportable in the locker room after. Okay,
right.
I mean, he would have been such a pain in the ass in the lot. We lost, and you didn't get me the ball. Well, that's why. And then he would have told the media, "This is on me.
Right.
I didn't help the team out." And he would have spun some bullshit, even though we know they didn't feed him. But he would have like spun it that way, like, "No, I need to do more. This is why we didn't win, or whatever." You know what I mean? And then Zoe would have been hard on his teammates. If Tim would have gotten him the ball. He would have been smart enough to get him the ball. But that's where I think Bam needs to say, "Hey, we're losing the lead. Give me the ball." Because Bam, see, this is what pisses me off about Bam. This is why because he has the skill set to be great. And he could score, and he could do. I think Bam can do whatever the hell he wants on the court. Put it that way. That's how I feel. Bam. That's the kind of talent that I think the Lord blessed him with. That he can put it on the floor on anybody. That he can drive. If he wanted to develop a 3-point shot, he easily could develop a 3-point shot because his skill set, brother, it's second to none.
Yeah.
Everything flows out of him. Even with Alonzo, he was mechanical. He had to literally work hard to become a good offensive player. Whereas I think Bam, there's way more natural ability to his game than a lot of guys out there. And so that's why in the fourth quarter, I need Bam. I want him to be a son of a bitch, bro. I want him to,
and look,
I want him to be mad. I want him to want it badly.
Yeah, and you look deep into the numbers. He had the second most touches in the fourth quarter in that game next to Jimmy, but he was playing the role of facilitator. He turned into Bam the facilitator, which, look, I know Chicago was throwing extra guys at him. He was finding the open man. Bam's going to make the right play a lot of times. But when you see the offense is struggling, you would like to see Bam be more aggressive and try to at least get to the free throw line, create offense somehow, because he was in a rhythm. He was their best offensive player that night. He needs to score in the fourth quarter. He can't have 0 points while playing. He played the entire fourth quarter, I think, and he didn't score. So that was one thing that I'm sure
has to tell him that it's all right for him to be selfish. Okay,
to force some shots up and try to get I
don't wait for Drew Smith to say, "Hey, I'm going to take all the shots." No, you're Drew Smith. Bam, brother, do whatever you want, man. Whatever you want. That's what I want you to feel. I want you to think that not only do I want to do it, but I can do whatever I want out there. And that's when he has that attitude, he'll be a superstar, bro.
The good thing is he's had that attitude more often than not this season, which is
I've noticed
a step forward for him. He's definitely been more consistently aggressive and assertive, looking for his own shot. Just that fourth quarter didn't happen, but I would assume tonight, after what happened late in that game, you're going to see a more aggressive Bam tonight.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he responds tonight for that one. All right, what are you working on in the Herald so folks can check you out, my friend?
Yeah, yesterday I posted something on Jaime Jaquez. He talked about having a welcome to the NBA moment guarding DeMar DeRozan late in that game. DeMar hit that tough shot on him. It was good defense behind me, but DeMar is DeMar. He's a professional scorer, and that's his sweet spot, right? That mid-range jumper at the elbow.
He's money.
And Jaime kind of experienced that firsthand. Today, we're going to shoot around now. I'm going to have something on Jimmy's three-point shooting, which has turned into a thing. He's hit a 3 in 7 straight games, which is the longest streak he's had with the Heat in the regular season since joining the Heat. He's shooting him almost 50%.
Oh, he made it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, right. I feel like that's every shot, right? He's shooting. He's been the best 3-point shooter this season. I know he took some ones that you probably don't want him to take late in that game on Saturday against Chicago. Yeah. But again, he's shooting I think 46% on threes. So I don't think that's going to continue. But the fact that he's taking more is interesting because it seems like he's trying to make that a bigger part of his game as he gets older. He's 34, right? He needs to start shooting more threes. And you're kind of seeing that progression a little bit.
Right? He adjusted to he couldn't drive to the hole. There's no more fall 7 times, get up 8.
Right.
That shit is over. So you have to, your body takes a pounding and you better learn how to, score without necessarily getting contact all the time. So
it's interesting. It's interesting. And I would expect it to continue. I don't think he's going to stop shooting them now. I mean, I don't think he's going to shoot 7 a game, but he's probably going to start taking 2-3 a game now.
Yeah.
So I think that's something interesting to watch. Yeah.
Let's see what happens. I just hope Bam starts doing it because they'll go in if he starts doing it. That's for sure. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Anthony_Chiang and catch his work there at the Miami Herald. As always, Anthony, appreciate you, my brother. We will catch up on Wednesday.
Sounds good. Thanks, Big O. Have a good week.
Thank you, my friend. You got it. There you go. Baptist Health, folks. Baptist Health. Do you have an injury, folks, that is keeping you from doing what you love? Take charge of your health and get back into the game with the help of the all-pro staff at Baptist Health Orthopedic Care. You don't need to be a professional athlete to go where the pros go. The doctors at Baptist Health Orthopedic Care can see you now. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho to request an appointment and get yourself back in the game.